Do we get into the Stallman stuff or no?
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. Tell us about your BFF.
I mean, do you want to, or yay or nay?
Well, I mean, how deeply are we going into? I'm not even sure what it is. I didn't read either article, either the positive or the negative article. So, how much do you want to get into it?
Well, we could just. I mean, it's the same old, same old. It's just people
Yeah, nothing
digging up
new.
old dirt. Captain RC posted it in the Matrix. That's the only reason I was going to mention it. There's a website called the Stallman Report, and they have, I don't know what you would call it, like well, it talks about his opinions regarding minors and stuff. Everybody is probably familiar with. Anybody that's about Stallman, pretty controversial. But that's what they are, his opinions. It's not like he's ever been convicted of being a pedophile or anything. I don't agree with him, but I can just say I don't agree with you.
Did you
Leave
get
it
the
at
feel that it was output from an LLM?
What?
The Stallman report?
Oh, I didn't really. I think I put in the Matrix that I think there's people out there with too much time in their hands.
Yeah, what I got from it, this is a normie that just discovered Richard Stallman and is now trying to make waves.
Could be. I don't know. They don't really say who they are. It just says contact us at editors@stallman-report.org. They list a bunch of references, so they're not brave enough. They're wild enough to put them on blast, but not brave enough to leave their actual names or identities after they just totally lambaste them.
Well, okay, yeah, I'll give you that much. They did a little something by doing a report, if you want to call it that. But truth be told, TLDR, nothing new here.
Yeah, that's my
you know,
opinion. Nothing new that people didn't know. Well, there was one thing that I thought was weird, and I brought it up in Matrix. It happened in the 80s where he supposedly was talking to a woman. I don't know if it was a student or a coworker or whatever, but he was just telling her, how all the terrible luck he had with women, and she took it as he was saying that life isn't worth living if you don't go out with me or something like that. Like he was coercing her to date him or he would kill himself.
Oh, we got to use the new
Supposedly.
term. We got to use the new kids' term. Oh, it's not new, but the new kids like to say gaslighting about everything. They're gaslighting.
Yeah, so whether that's
I was
true
going
or
to say
not,
the
I
new
don't
term,
know.
unalive.
Oh, unalive? Yeah. He's going to delete himself.
I mean, this happened in the 80s, and I mean, yeah, it would, if that was true, it's kind of shitty to tell a woman that you're going to kill yourself or unalive yourself if they don't date you or whatever.
Goodbye monetization.
But, I mean, okay, we know he's a weirdo. It's just how he is. That doesn't really negate the contributions he's made to free software. I mean, so there's that. Well, I'll go ahead and put it in the show notes.
And this is why you don't let open source developers talk to normies. Every time you let them out of their cage and they say something where the normies can hear it, you get a damn report and people start freaking out. All right. We all understand open source people can be weird and they just do they do things that aren't exactly agreeable at times, but we don't go making a big deal about it. We just kind of, how many times has Linus said something crazy to someone else, Linus Torvalds? So yeah, exactly. Or remember that 14-year-old kid he told that he's surprised that he was still alive or something crazy. He's surprised the kid found his mother's teeth or something stupid on the kernel message board. He didn't know the kid was 14, but regardless, the wild crap that he's put in there, it's normal if you've been around.
So there's also a rebuttal. I've posted that as well, github.io, and it's like It's basically a petition signed by who these people are, I guess, contributors. But
Petition to do what?
it just says it's an open letter in support of Richard Stallman. And
It's going to be, you know what they should do? They should sign it 100,000 times, and every single signature should be your mom.
well, it says 6,876 individuals have signed it. It says removing RMS will hurt FSF's image and will deal a significant blow to the momentum of the free software movement. To the ambush mob who is ganging up on Richard Stallman over reasonable arguments and debate and various opinions and beliefs voiced over decades as a public figure, you have no part in choosing the leadership of any communities, especially not via another mob attack which does not remotely resemble a fairly conducted debate as exemplified by better people such as Richard Stallman. Signed it. He actually signed it as a GitHub page. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I mean, everybody I'm sure who's listening to this knows Stallman's history and Stallman.org, his opinion blog, and all that
Who's
stuff.
Richard Stallman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met him at one of the early Ohio Linux Fests
Oh,
Wow.
did
at
you?
the FSS table. Yeah.
Was he eating his feet?
Not when I was talking to him.
Oh, that's good. At least saved it for later. So anyway,
That was my introduction to it's GNU Linux.
It's
Oh,
good
right.
Linux, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and you know what? I appreciate his dedication to that, making sure that everyone understands that you got to give attribution to GNU when you discuss Linux. I appreciate that, though it's a terrible name, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well,
Actually, I remember actually buying software
GNU. Is that a butt plug?
from the
Oh, that's a penguin. Okay, you're covering the head of it. It's kind of hard to see what you were holding up there.
from the Free Software Foundation. I was buying software to run under old-fashioned DOS, and that's the first time that I've ever bought software from a business, alleged business, who was against people actually using the software they were selling. He did not like to see GNU software running under proprietary DOS. And that was before I got into FreeDOS and stuff. But the deal is, if you're trying to get people into free software, getting them to use it on the most widespread platform that's available during that time is probably a good idea.
I agree.
But Stallman was just too ideologically rigid.
Very much so.
I mean,
Still is.
Was?
So you're saying he's
the Bunker Hill Monument is more flexible, I think.
he's not a fan of WSO.
He's not a fan of anything but Stallmanism.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And
That's always been my take.
also, guys, you know, if it wasn't for the scintillating content that you guys have been presenting, I might have taken days to take out my trash.
Oh, look at this. We actually helped out.
And Lovecraft, I'm going to assume the get well card that you sent me will also cover listening to this particular program.
That sounds
Isn't
like a
that
plan.
bad? I was having a good time.
I wouldn't listen to me.
And the other card, well, as I said, you know, I've been blessed to know you and Janelle and Morton C and L, and I was able to open those cards and truly enjoy them during this interregnum.
During your convalescence.
I'm glad you enjoyed them. I'm glad you're feeling a little bit better too, man. It's good to hear you back to your normal self.
Well, I was feeling a lot better, but the excruciating explanation of that movie just it may have set back my health weeks.
Now you're making me feel bad because I picked it.
Well, it's Scotty's fault.
I was urged by Honky and Joe to pick a movie.
I thought it was
it's one of the
interesting.
few. It was one of the few movies that actually was relevant to technology, though, as opposed to the other movies that we've watched, which are even close. And I thought it spurred on some interesting
Psycho
conversation.
Gorman was absolutely related to technology.
Yeah, that was great.
It might be a depressive subject matter, but it was at least a relevant subject matter.
Thought it was interesting too.
And Don the Dragon Wilson wasn't in it.
And Don the Dragon Wilson wasn't in it, which made it a huge plus.
Yeah,
That is a
That was
minus.
actually part of the criteria. The criteria we gave to Scott when he was picking one was that Don the Dragon Wilson was not allowed to be in the movie.
And it wasn't Gunhead.
Wasn't good. Universal Soldier.
I tried to pick that one
Universal
movie.
Soldiers.
I tried to pick Nemesis again.
He tried to pick Nemesis 2. That was his initial thing right off the bat, is he wanted to see Nemesis 2.
Oh, it's on the list.
We know, so is 3 and 4.
Because Universal Soldier is actually a good movie.
Honky used his one veto.
Yeah.
He said no. Put his foot down.
I wanted to watch something good for once. Granted, this wasn't good,
you
but
failed.
still. Yeah, I know.
It wasn't bad. I didn't think it was. I thought it was just crazy to see how this lady acted.
All right, let's not go back to the depressing
Yeah.
poor netminder over here now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had
We can move on.
Transcendence to look forward to for next show, 2014.
Transcendence. Stallman continues to be crazy, but I mean, why does anybody care at this point? That's the only thing I can say.
I don't know.
I think who was it, Scotty, who said that it had to have seemed like a normie all of a sudden realizing who Stallman is, and is like, this guy is crazy.
Yeah.
Why doesn't everybody realize he's crazy? Everybody knows he's crazy. We got that. All of my guess is most of the FSF is just as crazy as him in one form or another.
They're just not as vocal about it.
Most of the free software people are pretty crazy in their own form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
But we deal
Well,
with that because
look at how long it took Debian to include non-pure software drivers that virtually every system requires because of the architecture of modern PCs in their core system.
They went on Stallman's naughty list after that.
But you also have to remember with Debian though, it's pretty easy to change off of that core system. I mean, just add the non-stable repo into your apt list, and then you can get all that stuff pretty easily.
Yeah, but that's beyond the default. And I think the point that I can always make is if you make it difficult for someone to get it running because they don't know that, then you've just basically pushed someone away. And, okay, do you live and die by some ideal, or do you make it so that your software works?
Stallman does.
And that's the question, right? So,
but then don't
I would
use
rather
stable
use a
Debian.
Linux phone than an Android phone. Give it to me now.
I would also say this about Stallman around the subject. There has to be somebody on the fringe of any kind of movement, no matter what it is.
right.
Whether it's where, he is far, far on that end of the fringe. But what happens is, yeah, everybody points to him and says he's crazy, but he still has ideas that people accept and get and gradually make their way into the mainstream way of thinking as far as open source software goes. Any kind of movement needs those fringe figures where if you look at them as a whole, they're insane, but the few good ideas they have will gradually, mix in with the rest. And if you don't have those fringe figures, then you miss that kind of innovation and stuff like that. And so it's just, yeah, he's different, but I think he's necessary.
Well, just to be politically correct here, we don't say things like crazy or insane. We call them mentally hilarious.
Yeah,
I like
that too.
mentally hilarious.
But
I think
that's the point I would make about Stallman.
And I think, just to add on to that, there's a line at which that cuts off. So there is definitely, if you want to politicize it left and right or whatever, but I think there are people that take that to an extreme that no longer contribute meaningful dialogue. Like, they've just gone so far. Like,
Sure,
they can't
I agree with
be
that.
reasonable. You know what
And
I mean?
maybe Stallman has already approached that, But
Well, I'm not accusing him of that. I'm just saying you the point you're making, I agree with, and I'm thinking in terms of politics probably more than software. But I think that's where you kind of, if the attitude is, well, there's room for everybody, I think that's mostly true. But I do think that there are some people that push that too far.
yeah,
You need somebody
I'm just
like
talking
Stallman.
Oh, go ahead.
You need somebody like Stallman as your initial catalyst.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then he kind of he's kind of a figurehead after that, and he might say some crazy stuff in the background, and everyone just goes, "Oh, it's just Stallman," but he was the catalyst who got that whole thing started in the first place, and that's what you needed, was that catalyst.
Yeah, and the Free Software Foundation has done a lot of good for open source software in terms of sticking up for people with licensing issues, and I mean they do, as an organization, a lot of good, and I agree that because he's such a polarizing figure, it's just like they were trying to get, Torvalds out of Linux, or at least out of being the figurehead of Linux, because, he pisses people off. And
yeah,
No,
but
exactly.
He just
but
needed
you
a
almost
better
need
chat
somebody like
filter.
that.
No, you do need a benevolent dictator when it comes to a project as big as Linux.
But you almost need somebody like that in the Linux kernel, because most of the time when he's pissed off because things aren't getting done right when he thinks they need to be done right, or people or other companies, like when he's flipping off NVIDIA or whatever that was. It's people who just are just too damn stubborn to try and play along with them. Like, look, we're doing all this stuff. Why don't you just play along? Give us the code. Giving us the code doesn't hurt you at all. It can only make you better. Stop fucking fighting with us all the time and just give us the code. There's no reason to keep fighting us. But you need somebody to get pissed off and yell at these people and be like, look, what is the matter with you?
Right, and he's shown good judgment. I mean, over the years, more good judgment than bad, and really, it just comes down to his interpersonal skills that are abrasive. It's not that his performance is bad, the role that he is in. That's far from the, the truth is that he does a very, very good job. And I don't know how many people can think in terms of that, the breadth and depth of all of the things that are in the kernel and that want to be in the kernel and when they should go in, and managing all of that is crazy. Talk about product management or software development management, like that. That's a pretty big important project, and he's done a very good job of it. It's just whenever he gets pissed off, instead of being PC about it, he's just like, I don't give a shit. Because what are you going to do?
Right. So if you are in now, these people who are contributing, are they getting money for contributing
Who? You mean
into the
kernel
Linux kernel?
developers?
Yeah,
Depends if they work for Red Hat or if they
Yeah.
or
you
just
know, if
regular
it's-
open source contributors or what.
if they're just regular Linux kernel developers and they're in these mailing lists and they don't like the situation and it's not a job. I mean, it'd be like if this podcast got to a point where some of the people here got to be toxic, what would you guys do?
I would defer to you probably.
I'm
You
not
just fucking
toxic.
leave. You would just leave. You would just be like, look, I've had enough of this. I would leave. This is obviously not the type of environment I want to be in. I'm gonna leave. You wouldn't then you wouldn't create a giant thing about it and try to change everything. It's a podcast. You're doing this because you want to do it. It's the Linux kernel. People are if you were in there of your own free will contributing to something and you don't like the way that it's handled, you have the option to just walk away. Now, if you're a paid employee at a job that's a toxic environment, you have that opportunity where you can say, hey, I'm not going to deal with this and go do something else, or you can try and file something saying that this guy is creating a toxic environment. But that's more of a job situation than it is like something you're doing of your own, some group or something that you're doing of your own free will.
And Linus addressed that himself as well. He mentioned before that if one of the wonderful things about open source is you don't have to work with him. There are plenty of other people within open source that you can work with. So, in his own little way, he was explaining that, look, plenty of options available to you. Don't stick around for the one you don't like.
Right.
But they're our heroes, and I, for one, will not throw away any heroes. One of the issues that our country has now is we want our heroes during wartime, but when the war is over, we get bored with them. We don't know what to do with them, and we're quick to turn them into criminals. I refuse to do that with the open source heroes. Just because we're no longer at war with Microsoft, well, we kind of are, but still, it's not as bad as it used to be. We're no longer in the big fight against them right now, and everybody hearts Linux. So I'm going to keep the heroes around and show them all the love, even though they're barefooted and crazy.
Yeah, and plus nobody's saying you have to agree with everything they say.
And
We're just saying that the
he's not even
contributions
trying to get you to. Like,
No, he's not.
Stallman's not going out there telling you have to do everything he's doing.
It's his own opinions, but that's the thing. I think people think if they don't agree with everything a certain person says and they become offended, then that person just needs to be canceled. Forgotten about.
Yeah, the cancel culture is really a pain.